Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Julian and today I'm going to be doing my 1 year review of my last review of this Harley Benton Fusion Max. Alright guys, so I got this guitar because I had the Fusion 3 and I really liked it. Now if you want to see it, the whole video in depth, that's the video I made for last week, so you can check that one now. Today is going to be about the Fusion Max, right? And we're going to talk a little bit, just, I might say some comparisons, but I will do a whole video comparing this one to the Fusion 3 because when I was looking for this one, I didn't really see a lot of people like comparing them, so I think that's going to be helpful for anyone that might be on the fence of which one maybe they should get, or which one feels a certain way, or which one is better, right, overall. Now, to be honest, this guitar has one big flaw, but let's kind of like do like a year review first of like some of the things that I have noticed over playing it. I have not played this one as much as the Fusion 3, and I'll let you know why, because it's that one flaw that kind of stops me from playing it a lot, sadly. So first of all, let's actually talk a little bit about the weight. So it weighs a bit more than the Fusion 3, right? That's the main thing that I kind of noticed. And might be a little bit because obviously having a Floyd Rose tremolo, right, adds a little bit more weight. The other one has a Wilkinson, which is, I think, a little bit lighter overall, right? Now, something that I thought was cool, but then, I actually don't like too much is, the reverse headstock. Again, it's nothing against the actual headstock itself. The headstock is fine. It's just that, a lot of times I'm playing like right in front of my desk. Usually when I practice, I might be using like a plug-in. And it happens a lot that I just kind of like maybe, I need to get something. I'll put the guitar down and the actual tuners hit my table a lot. That happens with any guitar that has a reverse headstock, right? So that's kind of like a thing against. Is it a big thing? No, but I do wish that it was just like, normal as it is on most guitars. But again, it's not like a huge deal, right? Now, as far as the paint, guys, I love the paint. I like over here, by the way, and you can see like my first review of this guitar, right? I go really, really in depth, but I really like, and I set it back. I love kind of like, the brown with the green. I think it matches really well, and the binding looks excellent. I do wish that it was a little bit lighter. I have played this on stage, and if there's a lot of light, it looks nice and green, which, green is my favorite color, by the way. And it's hard for me to find a green guitar. But this one can also be pretty dark. Like maybe, let me see in the camera. If I put it like maybe like this, right, for example, it looks kind of black. So I do wish that the top was a little bit lighter. Now with Harley Benton, right, you will get like different, some people probably get like a brighter one, some people a darker one. It is a little bit of like a, like a raffle kind of thing. You just don't know which one you're gonna get. All right, so I was talking about that. Now the neck. And again, I'm not going to compare a lot to the Fusion, but it feels very different to the Fusion. Now, on paper, it says they're the same exact neck, by the way, right? There's like no difference on paper, like on the specs when you check it out. But there is a little bit of a difference. This one, for some reason, feels a little bit chunkier. Again, that could be my perception. Like, for example, one of the things that over here, this one has that is pretty cool, is that over here it has like binding on the neck. And it's very different. It's a lot lighter to the actual wood on the back, right? So again, I don't know if you can see it well. Let me see if I put it here. Maybe you can see it, right? So I don't know if it's just that makes it feel a little bit bigger, but it feels like it's a little bit bigger than the other neck. Now, is it like horrendous? Is it like a super huge deal that's gonna stop me from playing it? No. And the reason why is because this, guys, and that is very important, is that the fret work on this guitar is great. After owning it for around a year, I have not had problems with the frets. My action is actually set super low on this guitar. Super, super low. I have it, my bass is like around 1.6, 1.7, right? And my highs are like around 1.3. So this is actually my lowest action guitar. And it's because the frets are really well made, right? So that lets me put it really low. And the reason why is because it's a little bit of like a shred guitar for me in a way. Even though it can sound very stratty, right? But we'll get to that in a second. So the neck, guys, is really good. I really like the neck. Now, for some reason, I still find PRS guitars to be the easiest guitar to play for some reason. I don't know why or how they do it. But it's not that these are like bad to play. This one just requires a tiny bit more work just at the Fusion 3. But it's also a little bit about just sitting down and playing it for like, 1 or 2 hours, and then you kind of get used to it next. Especially if you play many different guitars, you can get used to something, change, and then the other guitar is going to feel very different, right? Feel wise, because again, you get used to the other one. But the neck is great, really good. Not that fret. It is a little bit hard to play up there, in the position that I was sitting, right? So if I'm sitting this way, playing out there is always going to be difficult. But if you're standing up, and I like to put my guitar kind of high when I'm gigging, it'll be around here. So actually, I can reach those frets, 24 frets, right? Stainless steel, which is, I think, really good for this kind of guitar. Now, the color of the neck is actually a bit different to my Fusion. My Fusion is a little bit, I don't know, it's more like more of a brown. This one feels more like a gold brown kind of thing. Now, the neck is not bad, and actually over here, you probably won't see it, but you can actually see like the flames also on the binding of the neck, which are pretty cool. Now, the neck, I do wish it had a bit more flame. Let me see if I can get the camera to show it. So it has like some lines, right? But overall, they're not that visible. Now, again, is it a big deal? It is not, but I've seen some of the Harley Bentons that have like this really strong, flame, which mine doesn't have. So again, it's not a big deal. I still really like dark necks. And it still has a bit of that flame. But, if you had more, I would probably like it even more. But it's more of a visual thing, On the front, it does have like this, like kind of like, I guess based on the wood that they use for the neck. So for the fretboard, apart from being super dirty by the way, because I have, even though I haven't played it a lot, I did play it a lot for like the first few months, right? So it is a little bit of like this faded brown, which I wish it was as dark as the Fusion 3, for example, right? But those are just look wise, right? Now let's get to the pickups for a second. Now actually, let's get to pickup configuration. The coil split, actually, I love when they add a coil split that they can turn on with like a switch, right? On any brand, right? And the reason why is because I don't think it's that useful. Like there is songs where you might need like a strat sound for like a birds or an intro or something, and then having to pull out, as you play, right? As you play, it's just, it almost never works, right? You just don't have the time. A lot of times your hands are sweaty. Now these knobs are kind of like tele style, so they are a little bit easier to grab, right? They just have a little bit more, they're just easy to pull out, but we don't need it because we have that little switch. So that switch, I do wish that any guitar that came with coil splits, just install the switch. Makes it much easier. And I'll do another video where we'll check out actually just the coil split sounds, because I do think they can get some really good sounds. The thing is the volume, right? With the only guitars, again, and I know I talk a lot about PRS, but it's because I think they do stuff really well. Like, you don't notice like a big volume drop with these ones. If you switch, to coil split, you're not going to get, as loud of a sound. So it's going to be a huge volume difference, right? But, the electronics work well, right? The switch feels fine. It has not like stopped working, it doesn't feel cheap. So that, sounds good, at least, and works fine, right? Now, let's talk for a second about the pickups on the sound, because again, after owning it for a while, you still, you start getting, or when I compare it to other guitars, I see like, okay, maybe I wish you had more of this or that. So the pickups, guys, so these are new pickups that I installed, and I don't know if in my first video I used this one. So over here, I have the Cruiser, the Marshall Cruiser, and it's to give me like a bit of a stratty kind of sound, because I do like my neck pickups to kind of have like a lot of bite, a lot of brightness to it, a lot of highs, right? A lot of glassiness if possible. And this one does a really good job at that. And the thing is that the stop pickups are super dark. Now, this might be just the one that I got, so I haven't gotten like two guitars, but if you get a chance to like maybe go to Thurman and check them out, see, because this guitar, guys, is very dark sounding. And I don't know if it's the electronics, I don't know if it was the pickups, I don't know if it's the actual construction of the guitar. Some guitars, guys, and this is very important to know, even if you buy, sorry, we got a bit of malfunction, right? So guys, even if you buy the same guitar, right, the same model of the same guitar, a lot of times they're not gonna sound the same. They might sound very different. So I got this one that I got is very dark sounding. And the funny thing, and I don't know if this has happened to anybody before, I used to love dark sounding guitars for like most of my guitar playing life, and now I'm now always looking for like bright guitars, which is crazy bright sounding, like snappy sounding, clear sounding. Think of like a Tele first. It might be because now I'm playing a lot of Tele, so now I'm always looking for that like clean, snappy, kind of like very bright, kind of thing, but also helps a lot on the gigs. So with this guitar, the stop pickups, guys, were super dark, like very, very dark. I couldn't really get into work. As with the Fusion 3, if you look at my last video, stop pickups are actually gray. And again, I think it's because that guitar is very bright and snappy and clear, while this one just seems to, again, I don't know if it's the construction or whatever it is, maybe it's, the bridge, being like Floyd Rose. I have no idea what it is, okay? But all I know is that this is a dark sounding guitar. So what I have to do, and what I'm going to do, by the way, is that this Seymour Duncan Omega on the bridge. I had this on my Fusion 3, which sounded great. And I thought, okay, since it sounded great on that guitar, let me put it on this one. And I find that the guitar is too dark. And you're going to see it when, when I show you like the tones that I got with these pickups, right? And with the pedals, by the way, which are the same as with the Fusion 3 that I used. So you can watch that other video and compare, right? But I find that this pickup is just a little bit too dark, a little bit dull in a way. And it's not the pickup because, again, I tried it on other guitars. And it's a really good pickup, actually. It's really, really good. So I think it's just the guitar. So for this guitar, I feel that it needs a lot of brightness. So I'm actually thinking of swapping these two to the Fusion 3. Again, this one's probably going to sound really good on that guitar because it's going to fatten out that sound but still be very snappy. And I might just put a regular single coil here. And, maybe a JB that I have on another guitar. I might put it on this one because the JB, I think, might be a little bit clear sounding, right? So, that's one thing on the guitar, right? So as far as the tone review of this guitar, it's just a dark sounding guitar, which some people might like. In my case, I do like more clearness, so then I had to play around with the pickups to try to clear that. And I do have to put on my pedals and amp, when I'm using this one, I had to put the sound, the tone pretty bright because I wanted to cut through, and obviously it's still gonna be fat sounding, but I have to fight that a little bit, so that's important. Right, but those are, things that you can always work with, right? But, if you have a gray neck, again, I love the color. Even thought I wish it was brighter. I think it's a beautiful guitar. Now let's talk about the downfall of the guitar, guys, and why this guitar has been giving me headaches, and it is the Floyd. All right, now, first of all, guys, I have owned a Floyd Rose guitar before. Maybe around 15 years ago, I had one. And with this one, since I had the Fusion 3 and I like the Fusion 3 so much, I'm like, let me get like a Floyd Rose one because I haven't had a Floyd Rose in forever. Even thought I don't use it kind of like, as I could just use like a normal thing for what I do, which is a little bit of like, it's not like a dive bomb. I just do like a little bit of like, work with the tremolo, especially when I'm doing lead things, of course. And this thing, guys, it's gonna work for a little bit, right? You do the setup. And then it's just not gonna work. It's just gonna really fast, go out of whack. And very important, guys, make sure that when you get a tremolo, especially a Floyd Rose, that you understand how they work because they are horrible to set up, right? They're so annoying. Everything is just so annoying about Floyd Roses. But this one in particular, because again, I had guitars with Floyd Roses that, you set them up and they could like, stay, and then you have to do a reset up after a while. With this one, guys, it won't last too long. So I had my first gig that I used it and it was fine. Then I had another gig. I used this guitar again. It was a pretty big gig. I think it was like around 2, maybe 3,000 people. So it was a bigger kind of gig, and the guitar was sounding great. So I'm like, let me take this one again. All right. And the thing with this one, and sorry, this video is gonna be kind of long, but I just want people to know about these things because when I was looking at videos to buy it, I wish people were going that. Right, so the Floyd Rose, guys, on that gig, it was horrendous. I don't even know what I got to like block it on the back to like tail block it. I put something in that I don't even remember what it was as an emergency because I was fighting the tuning. Like I used the Floyd Rose for like one song at the end just once, and then after that the tuning was horrendous, get out of whack. And then one of those things that is that with a Floyd Rose guitar, you just don't have time to like set it up as you're playing a gig, right? It's not like with other guitars that maybe it's easier. Floyd Roses are complex, so to be honest, unless you really need it or really, really want it, I would avoid a Floyd Rose. There's other guitars like, for example, like the system like for the Ernie Music Man John Petrucci, I had one of those guitars, and the tremolo was amazing, just good. Um, the Stramber, like they also have a floor, or not a floor, but a tremolo that goes both ways, right? And stays in tune for years. Like those guitars, they never had to set them up after like 2 or 3 years of use. Well, we know with this one again. So what could it be, guys? And I tried different things, and I have tried so much to work with that tremolo that I'm very close to basically giving up on it and just kind of like blocking it and using it as a normal guitar, because again, it feels so good, it sounds so good. But one of the reasons why I got it was because of that, and I think many people will get it because of that Floyd Rose. But if it's not gonna work, then kind of losing a lot on it, because I think that's actually what makes it a little bit pricier, right? If it didn't have that, it might be like around a Fusion 3 price. This one was a bit more, so it kind of sucks that one of the features that you mainly got it for just doesn't work well, guys. So I'm just being honest over here again. I think Harley Benton do awesome stuff, but you also have to be honest when they don't. And I do think, and on most of the Harley Bentons that I had that have some kind of tremolo, that is always like the one thing that doesn't always work perfect. On the Fusion 3 is a very minor thing, but on this one is a huge thing, right? So what I did, guys, or try to do, is that I install a tremolo, right? I bought it like even before I got this guitar. Like maybe I wanted to install on a PRS DGT, and it didn't fit on that guitar. The measurements were not right. So I put this one, guys. So the whole idea with this is that it can either lock the whole guitar, just lock it completely, right? You just lock it, and then it's like a tailgate kind of guitar, I guess. So that's what we call it, a tail stop guitar, like a telly, right? And that was fun, right? But you can also put the function, and I also installed, by the way, this right here, which is a guitar tuner, because I thought, okay, this guitar is gonna be great for whenever I had to do drop D gigs, where I had to like switch back and forth, and I still get the trem, but I also it's a really fast way to do it. And again, guys, couldn't get it to work, and it's not because of the D tune, it's because of the Floyd, right? The Floyd just doesn't work right. So I installed this, and that is like my savior. Anytime I play, which I don't play it a lot, again, because of that. So it helps a bit, but the tremolo, it still doesn't do a great job. By the way, when I block it from moving or block it completely, it works fine. But if I add the function where you can still use your tremolo one way, still won't go back to tune, right? So it hasn't been. So I'm gonna take that out, right? I'm gonna put back like the original, thing. And then what I am thinking of doing is that I did buy new springs, and I'll do a video about this, by the way. I did buy new springs that are supposed to be better quality, and I bought this thing which is called like a tremolo stopper. So what's gonna do is it's gonna block it from going down, right? From going this direction, right? Going down against the body, so it can only come up, because I never really use my tremolo going down, but I do want to use that guitar tuner. So that's gonna be the last thing I'm gonna try to see if it works. And hopefully it does, guys. It's not guaranteed, but hopefully it does. So that is the downfall of the guitar, guys. Also, I kind of hate the way that the tremolo thing is. It's like you have like this little nut that you got to twist, and it comes undone pretty easily after just turning it around. But it just feels cheap. Okay, so again, great guitar, guys. I mean, neck is really well. I like the color. I like the feel. It's actually very smooth, by the way. Well done. Electronics are good. It is dark sounding. So my two, I guess, negative things are that it is dark sounding, and again, that depends on the personal choice of each player. But number two, definitely, that tremolo, that Floyd Rose, just doesn't work. It just doesn't, guys. At least so far. So I'll do that last video when I get the new parts, right? The new springs and the tremolo thing. I'll install it, and I'll see. If not, I'll just gonna do like a tail stop, and then it's just gonna act like as a regular guitar, but I still get to use my D tune at least, right? So yeah, let's check out some tones. All right, sorry I didn't want to end that review on like a bad note, and I know it's pretty long, but I think it's important because I know people are looking at this, and I think like around 500, which is the price right now, it's not a cheap guitar. So around that price, you would expect things to work a little bit better. I understand if it was like $120, which is like their ST62, right? Which I never expect that tremolo to work, and it does not. But yeah, so let's check out some tone, guys, because it does sound really good, by the way. So check out the tones, and then I'll give my opinions at the end. Listo. Thank you, baby. All right, guys. So for this tone check, I'm gonna be using the exact same pedals, like exactly the same as my Fusion 3. The reason why is because many people are on the fence of how they sound, how different or how similar they sound, right? So what you can do is you can watch the tones on this one, and then you can go ahead and watch my video from last week, Fusion 3, and then see the tones that I'm getting from that one. And can compare and see, what that's gonna be like. Now, as far as the tones, guys, I'm going into my Tonkin Imperial, which is going not too straight to the DAW, right? That's going into my Orange Stage 30 amp for the power section. Then I'm miking with an SM57, this cab behind me, Orange PPC 112 with a Greenback speaker, right? So we're gonna go from low gain to high gain, as I always do, right? And then we're gonna check out our 3 switches. In this one we don't have 5, we only have 3 positions, right? So let's begin with a clean tone. I'll have a little bit of delay and reverb as always, just to like fill in a bit of that dryness that that comes when you don't have those things, right? So on the clean tone, here we go. Right, so already just so you know, by the way, I'm using a decruiser over here, a DeMarshall decruiser neck, which is supposed to be like a fat single coil for like a Strat kind of sound, right? So it does give you that. It gives you a lot of highs because this guitar it's kind of like dark sounding. It's a dark sounding guitar, right? The Fusion 3 is a lot more snappy, as I said before. But again, you just gotta work with with what a guitar comes with. Some guitars, even from the same model, might come darker sounding than other ones. I don't know why. I guess could be construction, could be the wood used, could be many things, right? So we still get a lot of brightness, and I do have my treble pretty high, right, on my Tonkin Imperial. So right, so it still gets quite good highs, but then again, it's not a snappy sound, right? Let's go into our metal. Nice and chimey, right? Again, it's not gonna be that 2 and 4 position from like the 5 switch, kind of like a guitar with that middle position, right? But it gets that jangly sound, right? Maybe more tailish in a way, right? And let's see, over here I have for my bridge, by the way, a Simmer Duncan Omega, as I said before, but just in case. So that's a little bit dark sounding, and that's kind of what I'm thinking of changing, right? But here it is, clean sounds. That was a clean tone. By the way, I have everything up, like all the way up, volume and tone. Usually I always have it that way, guys. I'm more of a pedal guy, so I don't get a lot of my volume from the, or tone or volume changes from this. I get it from my pedals because I just love pedals. And that's just what I'm used to doing, right? So now let's go ahead and do our Tubescreamer, right? I have it with a little bit of overdrive, but not a bunch, right? So check it out. Let's go right back to our neck. Nice. All right, let's do our metal. Alright guys, and now let's go ahead and do our bridge. Alright, again using the Tubescreamer Mini. As you notice, with the Tubescreamer adding a lot of mid frequencies, right? And this pickup being kind of like a little bit dark and a little bit honky by itself already, for me that adds just a little bit too much. Too many mid frequencies, right? So it sounds very like nasal sounding, which again I don't like that much. You could, it's gonna help a lot in a mix maybe, right? But then maybe for the neck that sounds great. Right, cuts through, it still has a lot of highs, but on the bridge, it has that like kind of like frequency thing that I don't like at all. But then for other things, that pickup is great. All right, so that was our Tubescreamer. Now let's go ahead and go to the NK3 driver by Keeley, right, or the Muse driver. Now this one, guys, has a lot of highs, right? This pedal, especially when you put in the AT mode, right? And if you're using something kind of like single coilish, which is like this one over here, right, which again is still like kind of like a humbucker, but it has the qualities of a single coil, so you gotta be careful with that one. But check it out on the clean. Right, so again, it has, it's kind of like rough, and I'll do a video on that pedal, right, because depending on the sound that you want, but I find that in a mix, it sounds great when you put the AT drive. When you play by yourself, it can sound a little bit, just like a little bit aggressive, especially on the highs, right, but it works really well in the mix, and I understand why they use it that way. Okay, let's do our metal. Now on this one, right, since we have a humbucker and kind of like a single coil, it does kind of like take away some of those harsh highs, right? And again, it has that like kind of like jangly, almost like a telly, mid position kind of thing, but not as chimey, right? All right, now let's go into our bridge with the NK3 driver. Obviously pushing a lot more, right, on that one, and again, because it is a bit of an aggressive pickup, right, so it's pushing it way more. Right now, let's do for kind of like my, I guess getting close to distortion, but not quite super heavy, right? We use the Wampler Ratsbane, which is pretty much a rat pedal, right? So check it out. Here it is. Well, let's put that a little bit more straight. All right, so the Ratsbane. Here, that middle one actually cleans up a lot more than, if I use my neck. Pretty heavy already, right? If I do the middle position, it almost like kind of like, takes away some of the gain, kind of cleans things up a little bit. So again, really nice. That middle position is really helpful. All right, and let's do our bridge. So that is already pretty heavy. Except that being a rat pedal is kind of loose on the low end, right? And because the guitar is already dark, it's also gonna make it a bit darker sounding, even with these pickups, right? But that's kind of the Ratsbane. Right now, for the hiking stuff, I'm gonna use my Joyo UC because I love that pedal so much. It's so good. So what I'm gonna do, guys, is for the neck, right? We're gonna take away, we're gonna put a noise gate first. And we're gonna kind of keep the effects, but then when I go to my bridge, I'm gonna take off the delay and the reverb just so we can see how it can riff, right? Kind of like how tight it can get with this one over here. All right, so let's turn on our Joyo UC. All right, on the neck. Right now, lead tone, I guess, with the bridge. again, you know, compared to a Fusion 3, and I'll do a video going more in depth, but this one is less snappy, so it is heavier sounding, right? Thicker sounding, while the Fusion 3 just sounds a lot more snappy. Now, obviously, the different pickups, but I have tried this one, and I'm actually gonna put it back on my Fusion 3, by the way, because this one fits really good. The Fusion 3 being a lot brighter and snappier sounding kind of matches well with the lowness, kind of like growliness of this one. While for this one, I feel it needs a little bit of something a little bit brighter so it can get a little bit tighter or snappier. Obviously, pedals help, and I'm not gonna use the Tubescreamer to like tighten it up, but you know, just to kind of, you know, a little bit of, you know, at least this one guitar, you know, how to deal with like that dark sound that, you know, just has, right, by default. All right, so let's take away our tune, our delay, and let's take away over here on the tone king our reverb, right? So check it out. No effects. Dark sounding already, right? All right, so let's do some riffing. I know this video is like way longer than what I expected it to be because I really got in depth at the beginning, right? But let me know what you thought about the tones of the guitar, guys. You know, again, I think it's a really good sounding guitar, really good sounding, and I'm gonna change the speakers as I said in the beginning because I want it to be even brighter. But I know it's a guitar that sounds good and especially feels really good on the neck. So again, you know, my only thing, and I should have checked it on the tone. I'm sorry I didn't, but it's that, you know, that Floyd Rose, guys, just doesn't work, and it is a little bit upsetting, guys, because kind of the main reason why I got this one was because I'm like, okay, it's like a fusion guitar, which the Fusion 3 is great, just with like a Floyd, because, you know, I do have some gigs where we'll do some Van Halen, or things where you might use like a Floyd, so I thought, okay, that's great for those gigs, right? And as a player, you know, I'm always finding an excuse to play guitars, by the way, so that was my excuse to get that one. But, you know, I just gotta say that, you know, in a way, I'm kind of disappointed on this Floyd, guys. It's just, you know, and I'm gonna try that last thing that I said, you know, on the review, or the 1 year review, right, to see if I can get it to work, or just still get it, which is, again, is sad. So, you know, hopefully Harley Benton is watching this. Please, guys, you know, find a way for those things to work, you know. Floyd Roses, obviously, you guys know more than me about building guitars, but we all know that Floyd Roses have to be perfectly, like, you know, the way it's put together and the way that is, you know, that the mechanism works, is everything has to be just like perfect for it to work correctly. If not, it's a mess. And again, for the people thinking of getting a Floyd Rose because it's cool, get ready because you're gonna have days where you just hate it, right? You know, you hate setting them up. I remember on that gig where it didn't work, I took like the whole day before I was setting it up, tried it out, you know, did a bunch of dive bombs. Okay, it went good, and then when it was time for the gig, didn't work, and then it was a pretty horrendous gig, you know, tuning wise. So, you know, again, I'm not gonna end it on the bad note, guys. So that is bad, but everything else on the guitar is great. I do like the gold. Usually, maybe if it was black, I would like it better. But you know, the gold and green still looks kind of cool. Wish it was black though. Would be like a minor look. But it is a great guitar aside from that Floyd. So it's a great guitar with a just not working part. That is a very important part. So take that as you want, of course. But that's a review. So I will compare between my Fusion 3 side by side on the next video. So check that one out if you're interested in seeing how those two kind of compare when we're talking, you know, one to one. All right, but that's today's video, guys. If any questions, let me know, and I'll see you next time.